You're listening to TLN Radio, a member of the Nation Network of Podcasts and delivered by DoorDash.
What's up, everyone? You're listening to episode 12 of the Leafsnation Radio podcast. We got the crew here, Caroline, Nick, Kyle, and Scott. And we were just talking offline, everyone, before we get into all of our hard-hitting hockey talk. We were talking about Tim Biebs, Justin Bieber's flavored Timbits. And Nick, you said that you've tried all of them, hey?
Yeah.
So, okay, let me read the flavors. So we've got chocolate white fudge. Maybe that's the one I wasn't really sold on. Sour cream chocolate chip and birthday cake waffle. So 3 different flavors. Which one did you like?
None.
Really?
They're okay. So my favorite Timbit is birthday cake. There is no better Timbit than birthday cake. And if you disagree,
then but that's okay.
No, okay, you can leave. Anyways, I love chocolate glaze too, but
they're one two. So.
Yeah. So I've liked birthday cake. I was very curious about the birthday cake waffle one. That one is good. They all taste like a Timbit. Like if you're thinking that birthday cake waffle is going to taste like anything different, it tastes like birthday cake. If you think the chocolate glazed one is going to taste like anything different, it tastes like chocolate glaze. And then the one that's really weird is the sour cream chocolate chip one. I was not a fan of it to begin with, and my girlfriend wasn't even a fan of it. And it's just that one's a weird mix, and that one's the one that tastes the most different.
Okay, so I agree with you. The birthday cake, I've been tweeting at Tim Hortons for years now. It's slightly embarrassing that they need to come out with a birthday cake donut. It's about time they upgrade the Timbit to the donut, because every single time I go to Tim Hortons, I'll get my regular almond milk latte and I'll get one birthday cake Timbit because it's just the best thing. And it just goes so nicely with my latte. And I'm like, if they made this into a donut, I would 100% get a dozen donuts, just birthday cake. So I completely agree with you, Nick, on that. The other ones, but I don't know why you'd ruin the birthday cake Timbit. It's so good on its own. Why would you add the waffle? So that's what I was like confused about. And then the other ones kind of scared me, but I love Justin Bieber. So I was like, I got to try them. But now I'm curious. Maybe right after this podcast, I'll head over to Tim Hortons. And
they're like, you got to try it. Like that's the thing is like, you might as well try them. And if you don't like them, then you don't like them. Like to me, it's like, they're considered premium donuts, so they do cost a little bit more than regular Timbits, which kind of sucks. But again, at the same time, it's expected because it's, for one, Justin Bieber, and it is technically a different donut. But I don't know. I really don't know. I probably wouldn't get them again unless someone bought them for me. And I would probably only get the birthday cake waffle.
Wow. Okay. And Scott and Kyle, you guys haven't heard about this or tried it?
Oh, like I heard about it like a little bit, but like I don't know. I don't have a ton of interest in it. Justin Bieber isn't necessarily my territory, but the birthday cake waffle one does sound kind of interesting. But I don't know, if it's more expensive, I'll just get like the birthday cake.
Right.
One,
I know.
And
I haven't heard of it either. So maybe I'll give it a try after the podcast recording as well.
We should try it for next week's. We have 1 week, guys. We have
homework.
1 week to try.
Okay.
Exactly.
Right.
We all have homework.
Yeah.
We're going to try and we can rate them. But yeah, I mean, okay. So Kyle, you're not a JB guy. What kind of music do you listen to?
I think Scott and I are kind of similar in some of our interests. I'm more into like the alt rocks over to like metal territory than pop and stuff. But.
So go-to that you'd put on your iPod today. Is it like Toronto?
My like go-to like duo is Muse and Linkin Park. Those are the two that are like my mainstays.
So I love Linkin Park. I was
nice.
Growing up, all I listened to was like Linkin Park, Radiohead, The Fray. I knew every Fray song off by heart. Then you'd go and dabble into Goo Goo Dolls because that was in every like rom-com movie growing up. And I don't know, Sum 41, Blink 182.
Yeah.
That I still to this day, when I'm like cleaning around the house, I'll put Matchbox 21 or like a Blink 182 playlist on, and I'm just like, these are such throwbacks.
Love it. Yeah,
it makes me so happy. They don't make music like that anymore. Hey.
There's like a few bands that still make some good stuff, but you have to really go out and try to find them. So, like there's one band like Cleopatra that I really like right now. I'm going to their show in a couple of weeks, which will be my first concert in like 2 years, which is pretty cool. But
nice. Yeah. I went to my first concert on Wednesday, and it was I will say you don't notice your mask is on the whole time. It's not as much of a bother as you think.
Interesting.
Yeah, like I think a week and a half ago now, I did a 7-hour broadcast with a mask on, so I'm not super concerned about that. But yeah,
you get used to it, hey?
Yeah,
that's where we're at with the global pandemic, is respecting it and getting used to it, and this is our day to day. Hey.
Oh yeah, you saw Churches, right, Scott?
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
Nice.
You guys need to let me know, like the new bands that kind of sound old school, because I just always go back to the throwbacks. Yeah. That's my favorite.
I mean, the throwbacks are pretty good too. So
it's all I swear I missed out on all the new music, because all I do is listen to throwback radio or like a playlist on Spotify. Because the new music, don't get me wrong, like I love new and upcoming artists, but nothing for me is like the old school music. So if you guys have any new bands, you got to let me know and give me some songs to listen to. Homework for next week.
Lots of homework.
Right? I know. Yes. Okay, let's dive into Leafs territory. Obviously, big California sweep for the boys. 1-6-2 versus the Kings, 4-1 versus the Sharks, 5-1 versus the Ducks. The Leafs have now tied a franchise record with their 7th straight road victory. Do we call them road warriors yet? This is pretty big for them, considering how the season started. I feel like Leafs fans, there are some players that obviously stand out, but as a whole, Leafs fans have to be happy. Like, I feel like there's just no room for complaints. Be happy.
You'd think, right? We find ways, but what is it, like 14 wins out of like the last 16 games or something like that now? Or like it's crazy. And I'm kind of here for the Road Warriors moniker.
I'm here for Pierre LeBrun calling them juggernauts.
Oh, here we go. Already.
That's the tweet of the year. Other than
we'll see how it goes, but
no,
Scott? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, they're doing great. It's weird to see them doing so good since the beginning of the season. But it's nice, and it's also kind of not expected, but in a sense, sort of like they're showing what they can do. And that's one of the big and most important things, is that if they can show what type of team they are and show that they're one of the best teams in the NHL, people are going to be like, hey, they're actually pretty good, even though people have already said that. But no, it's very weird to see them doing such good things right now after they had such a bad start.
Adversity, right? They handled it. It's so funny. Anytime the Leafs have a really big game or there's a big moment, so many people tag me, and like Leafs fans tag me in Leafs tweets being like, did you see this? And I'm like, hey guys, I obviously love Toronto. Like I was born in Toronto. I grew up watching the Leafs. My situation has changed, but every single time the Leafs play, it's not like I hope they lose. I'm so happy for them. I'm so happy to see that they're on such a good run. And if anything, I love when players in Toronto can prove to the media that, you know, they were too harsh at the beginning, or they jumped the gun. And I think that's exactly what's happening right now. And perfect segue into what's going on with Auston Matthews in his interview yesterday with Gord Miller. I don't think Gord Miller meant any disrespect by that. I think he was just simply reiterating what Toronto media had been saying about Auston Matthews. And the way Auston handled that, I thought was perfect. There was like obviously sarcastic tones. There was obviously like annoyed tones. He handled it very respectfully, but at the same time sent a clear message to Toronto media, like, stop, F off. Like, we're good. We don't care about you. And to say that on national television, I thought was just like the cherry on top, where NHL superstars and maybe even other players around the league can now start to feel comfortable to do so, obviously in a respectful manner. Speak your mind. If you're annoyed and it's a dumb question or a dumb comment, feel free to be a human being and let people know. I thought Auston Matthews such a boss in that interview. Obviously, everyone online loved it too.
Yeah, I loved it. And I actually didn't mind the question from Gord Miller either, because instead of it being the classic, what did you see on the goal, blah, 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 tip in front, good guys, pucks in deep, whatever. It was a question about his 5-on-5 struggles and the fact that he had gone so long without really finding that consistency scoring 5-on-5. So he asked the question, adds in the bit about the criticism, if it was something he was concerned about. And then we get a really great answer, to be honest, instead of the cookie cutter, blah, 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 the stuff that you snooze through at the intermission. So I thought it was refreshing. I thought it was great from Gord Miller there. And I thought it was even better from Auston Matthews to go out and give that kind of response there.
Yeah, it was just like, it's nice to see that level of sass from a player. Well, just like any player in general in hockey, because we're starved for that kind of content. But like the fact that it's one of the biggest names in the league as well, who's starting to take on that kind of persona, I think will be, it's good for the league. It's actually kind of interesting how like I always liken like McDavid to like this era's Crosby, and then Matthews is this era's Ovechkin. And it's kind of funny how that's also carried on with like their off-ice persona as well. Because like Ovechkin always kind of had that. I mean, he was like a little bit quieter, but like he always had that kind of wild personality as well. So that's also pretty funny to see. Yeah.
I think, like, again, like Kyle said, like the question, it was very reasonable because there should be a little bit of maybe not criticism, but questioning of why Auston Matthews didn't have a 5-on-5 goal until now. But I mean, like everyone said, it's nice to see that his personality bounced off that question and he sort of gave the real answer, because I mean, I wish more Canadian hockey players did this, because you don't really, like, Connor McDavid doesn't do it. Mitch Marner might sometimes, but he doesn't really go out of his box. And
Tavares definitely doesn't do it.
Oh no. And like in the last week, it's been Auston Matthews and Brady Tkachuk going off, and it's good for the NHL because it provides entertainment, and that's the big thing. And if there's no entertainment, what's the point? So
no, 100%. Kyle, it's a great point in terms of perspective. To even from Gord Miller's side of things, it was a different question. It was more of a refreshing question to ask. And if he's not asking that question, we don't see that side of Auston Matthews. So you kind of got to tip your hat to both sides. And again, I didn't mind that question from Gord Miller at all. I don't think there was any disrespectful. Sometimes you listen to the media and you're like, okay, there's a few questions that are asked to Leon Draisaitl that I'm like, come on, right? That wasn't one of those moments. And he tweeted today, Gord Miller tweeted today, I've been getting some questions about this answer in our second intermission interview with Auston Matthews last night. My take, I thought it was a refreshing change, an honest, revealing answer. He was even polite enough to say no offense as he said it, which was cool because when Auston Matthews said no offense, Gord Miller right away was like, none taken. Like it was just a respectful conversation where people were real with how they felt. And the fact that Auston did it on TV, I think is what, it was the platform of it all and the tone of it all. And it was just like media and player coming together and being honest. I thought it was great. And again, we need to see more of that in the NHL.
Absolutely. And let's hope on the Brady Tkachuk side of things that we don't need more biting incidents to provoke them. But
I was just thinking about that. People online, because people were like, Brady was too harsh. And I'm like,
no, he wasn't.
This is what I mean. It's so hard for NHLers, right? Like, why is that league in particular? So why do people come down on sharing your thoughts and opinions? Because I guarantee you, if anyone was out on the street and they got bit, they would have some choice words,
exactly.
And here Brady got bit badly. So of course he's going to say things that he feels in that moment. And obviously there's this like long history between, that both families. So I don't mind anything Brady said. I actually, when I heard those sound bites and then I was waiting for Matthew Tkachuk's response after the game, I live for that because obviously it's wrong. Brady Tkachuk has the right to express how he feels. But then there's also like the spiciness of like the entertainment of it all. And then it's like, what's Matthew Tkachuk? Does Matthew Tkachuk have an opportunity, to do something? So I don't know, but it's about time NHLers start to have a voice and feel comfortable enough to truly express how they feel, especially in moments like that.
The one thing that'll be interesting to see though is how the media responds to stuff like what Matthew says. Cause like, one thing I've kind of noticed with how players are portrayed in the media is a lot of the times the players who are have bad character are usually given to players who are good, but don't give good quotes. So the media has to come up with a bad spin to like bring them down. Meanwhile, on the other side, you have like bad players who give good quotes. So it's like, oh, they got lots of character. So I wonder if like William Nylander is a good example. Like he doesn't really do much as far as like giving off like a ton of like sound bites for the media. So I could see that playing a role in why they're always like, oh, that's, he's lazy. So I that's just a pattern I've noticed over the years with media. So I wonder if Matthews attacking the media might also like cause more of those problems.
I was wondering now that the media, I love it. The media, like these the dark entity, right? I wonder if the media, now they saw how like the interaction between Auston and Gord Miller happened, if now they're going to purposefully ask questions like that to get a rise out of players to kind of make their story or their question pop off. You know what I mean? Put players in a situation where maybe they do aggravate them. But what I think was special about Gord Miller and Auston is that there wasn't any negative tone to it. It was just, I think that's what made it special. It wasn't a contrived negative question by Gord, and it wasn't a contrived negative response from Auston. It was just so pure and authentic. And I think that's why everyone's talking about it. It's not like your quintessential, unfortunate question that players are getting asked. And then, you get like a monotone answer from a player or an eye roll or anything like that. You could tell Auston was cool about it. He was just sending a message, which was so cool. I loved it. I live for those moments.
I do think like it's, especially with Gord Miller, like everyone knows him. I think there's a little respect there. And I think in terms of like, I think for the media as well, and kind of me being around the Marlies and what I've learned a little bit is just, I think if you want to get those better quotes, I think you have to be able to connect with the players more, because the more you connect with them and the more you relate to them in a sense, the more they're willing to talk to you and the more they're willing to give you different answers.
Because they trust you. Yeah.
And like one of the things I've noticed is Mark Masters is really good at that. He's really good at getting answers. And I think one of the reasons why is just he's for one, I'd say he's really lighthearted and he's easygoing on that part, but he's very good at connecting with them. He's very good at like knowing who the younger guys are and knowing what kind of questions to ask them. And I think that's one of the big things is if, again, like you said, Caroline, if you do want to like maybe relate to them a little bit more and try and figure out a good way to ask those questions, you'll get good answers.
Absolutely. There has to be this, I think, people we're all in the media, right? And as journalists or reporters or whatnot, your job is to report the truth. So if you're buddies with Auston Matthews, you have a good rapport with him, but he's not playing well, your job is to report as to why he's not playing well, right? But it all has to be done respectfully, and it all has to be done with taste, right? And the second someone in the media kind of crosses that line, I don't blame players for pulling back or putting that wall up, right? And kudos to all the reporters out there who have maintained that level of integrity, because it's tough. You want to be the number one guy or put out the number one story. Or wasn't there someone who broke news that Auston had COVID? Wasn't that a storyline? Right?
Yeah.
Good old Steve Simmons.
Right? So like
it's a throwback.
Things like that, you can't blame players. And when you're reporting these news, you want to be the first one to do it. You want to have your name on it. But sometimes you got to think about like the long game and what that does to your integrity and the relationship you might have with a player. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. Maybe we're going to start to see, hopefully the media evolve a little in Toronto, or players do exactly what Auston Matthews did and just kind of like shut them down immediately. So it would be cool and interesting to see. But Auston Matthews was the guy to do it, because he's just, I don't know, there's something about his personality that just made that so funny.
Absolutely. I think the best part of it was the no offense in the middle of it as he's going off. I think that just is perfect.
It was perfect. It's like you're talking about no offense, none taken. Oh my God, I was like, they're buddies. This is cool. This is so cool on national television, not scripted, not, cut in post-editing, nothing, just national television. All right, let's talk about Auston Matthews' performances. Obviously, 20 games, 10 goals, 9 assists. He has 3 goals in his last 3 games. Is he at this moment playing his best hockey?
I mean, I think everyone knows the level that he can get to. The underlying numbers have been very, very kind to him all season long. He's still ranked in like the top 2 essentially all season long in terms of goals above replacement, things like that. The puck hadn't necessarily been going in, but it feels like that's starting to turn a little bit, starting to get better 5-on-5. And I think some of that has to do with the missed time in training camp, missed time in the preseason, and kind of building up his game over the last little stretch of play. And I think we saw, especially over the last 3 games on this road trip here, where at 5-on-5 especially, he looked like a little bit step better. He was getting the goals, he was getting the chances and things like that, and starting to go in for him a little bit. As long as the underlying numbers have been there all season long, it's just been the pucks haven't necessarily been going in as much, and starting to see that turn a little bit here. So positive signs, especially 5-on-5, because that's been the big concern. The power play's been a lot better as of late. It was maybe the 5-on-5 scoring for Marner and Matthews and things like that, but starting to turn is a very good sign.
It sort of feels like he's trying to find different ways to score goals, sort of similar to what he did last year with his wrist. Like, he wasn't able to do his shot. He wasn't able to have that. So he was in front of the net, trying to tip pucks, trying to just get those dirty goals. And if he's able to figure out how to score his goals with his shot, as well as consistently have those net front battles, and instead of getting cross-checked in the back all the time, like we've seen with him and McDavid and everybody else, just have that ability to score goals in front of the net too. I mean, I don't know how many goals he'd score doing that, but I know it would be a lot. And similar to what Kyle said, is like, it does feel like that training camp missing it was a really big thing, because it didn't allow him to be on the same page as other players. And now that he's sort of on that same page, it'll feel like, when I know he's doing really well, it'll feel like he's scoring every game. And right now it doesn't, but he has in the last 3 games. So I'm sure it'll carry on.
I think that also just speaks to how good he is at scoring goals, where it doesn't, even when it doesn't feel like he's going to score, he can score. I always made the comparison. It's kind of like this, the Steph Curry of the NHL right now. You know, he could be in like the concession stands and probably still fire a shot pretty accurately. I will quick little shout out to fellow TLN writer Mark Norman. Did an article last week about Auston Matthews like shots so far this season, and he has noticed that his wrist shot has been like used a lot less so far this season. So it's possible that like his wrist still could be affecting him early on in the season, but that's also kind of started to go up a bit more as the season's gone on. So like if there's any concerns I have with his game right now, it's that hopefully his wrist can get better, because it's pretty important to his game. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he's still scoring goals regardless is still like incredible.
What's that article called, so we can tell people to go head over to theleafsnation.com and check it out? Put you on the spot, boys.
I'll see if I can find it quickly here. But like for Matthews, I think one thing that kind of drags his overall numbers down is the slow start that everybody had. In the month of November, in the 14 games, he has 9 goals and 17 points, which is a stat line that looks a lot more like the usual Matthews stat line that we expect than the 20 games, 19 points, 10 goals kind of thing. So especially as of late with the 3 goals in 3 games here, it's looking a lot better recently. And I just found the article here. So it's Auston Matthews is shooting his shot differently from last week from Mark. A great look at the shot selection that Matthews has used over his entire career, not just this year as well, and to see how it's changed and stuff like that. So I highly recommend checking that one out.
Amazing.
Mark's got some great content. He's pretty heavy on the stat stuff. So he's...
Well, we need to get him on the pod. Maybe we'll get him on the pod next week. Guys, reach out to him if he wants to come on and share some of his work.
I'll let him know. I met him last week at the concert. So I'll...
Oh, nice.
Okay, sick.
We're closer now.
Let him know.
Yes.
Okay, great stuff. Let's talk about Michael Bunting, because he's a hot topic from this past week. 5 points this week, 2 goals, 3 assists. Obviously, this guy plays with such heart, and you always need heart on the roster. Remember, Nick, last time, Mike, my fiance, asked us, like, who on this team is the guy with heart? I feel like Mike Bunting does such a good job of, like, playing every single game and leaving what he can on the ice, which I think is such an admirable quality from someone on a team. You always need to have a guy like that on the roster. Thoughts on his performance on the top line?
I'm a big Bunting fan. In the offseason, I was a little bit concerned about maybe the contract that he would get with the limited sample size with Arizona, having the sky high shooting percentage, things like that. But when the Leafs got him on a 2-year contract for under $1 million, I was very excited about the possibilities there, because it's not just the fact that he had scored a bunch with Arizona in a small sample, these kind of things. It was the way he was scoring. He was doing it off of rebounds, deflections in front, things like that, which is what you want a guy playing alongside your top guys like Matthews, Marner, and those guys to be able to do. You want them to be able to go into the corners, get the puck. You want him to go to the net front, battle for those rebound opportunities and things like that. And he's been succeeding in doing that. He had a little stretch in the middle part of the season here so far where the offense dried up a little bit. He went down to the fourth line. He scored again. He gets the bump back up. And he's looked great in these last couple of games. He's been really effective on the forecheck. He's been really good getting into open space. And even when he hasn't converted, he's been getting those chances. So he's been doing everything that you'd maybe want a quote unquote cheap Hyman replacement to be able to do. And for less than $1 million, I think everybody has to be super happy with this play so far.
Go ahead,
Scott.
Yeah, here. This kind of transitions off of Kyle, but you call him a cheap Hyman replacement, but Bunting actually has more 5-on-5 points than Zach Hyman. Bunting has 12 right now, and Zach Hyman only has 8. So Hyman's been feeding off the McDavid effect on the power play. So that's kind of skewed things a little bit. But yeah, as far as like even strength play goes, it just feels like Matthews and Marner has been missed a beat replacing Hyman with Bunting at this point. I don't think Bunting can drive his own like line.
Yeah, that's
like
the difference.
Hyman could later on in his career, but I think he fills that role perfectly so far. And the fact that the points seem to be coming for him again is a great sign.
So are you saying that Michael Bunting should be on Team Canada?
Yes. Team Canada should just be
call their trophy. Just give it to him now.
Should just be Michael Bunting's team.
Imagine.
One of the things that stands out to me, not even from just a points perspective or anything, is just that he seems like he cares every shift. He doesn't take it for granted. Whenever he scores a goal, it looks like he's scoring his last goal. Like he's so happy. And you get players who score goals and they're happy, but like players like Michael Bunting, Auston Matthews will do it sometimes where they just show their flair after a goal. I don't know. It just seems every time Michael Bunting scores, he's incredibly happy. And that's an interesting thing to me. And he's playing at home and everything like that. But it just, again, like it seems like every goal that he scores is like his last goal that he's ever going to score. And he's so happy about it, it's nice to see just a player being so happy about scoring.
I totally agree. And that's also like a component of what I'm saying about he has so much heart when he plays, because that's contagious to watch on television. Imagine what it's like when you're his teammate on the ice and you see how amped and happy he gets when he's able to contribute and help the team. That elevates the team's performance. That elevates, the tempo of the game and everything. He's special that way. And I don't think that the Leafs, if they didn't have that, I'm not saying that they wouldn't be as good, but I think it brings a different level of energy maybe and tempo and just the way the game goes when Bunting's able to show his emotion and show how happy he is. Because then not only do you want to play for the guy, right? Like you want to help him score, you want to help him do it again. And it's just a really, really good thing to have on a roster. And I think that this week we really saw that with Michael Bunting. So I'm really rooting for him.
Yeah, and I think there's 2 reasons for that. Obviously, the first one is that he's from Scarborough. He's playing for his hometown team, all this stuff. But I think that his journey to get to this point is a big reason for it. He played 5.5 years in the AHL. He cleared waivers at one point. He didn't become a full-time NHLer until he was 26 this season. Even last year, he spent the first half of the season with Tucson in the AHL. He was a mid-season call-up for Arizona. So when you're making the NHL at 26 and people have questions about whether you'll stick and all these kind of things, and you get demoted to the fourth line at one point, it looks like things might be going a certain way for you, and then you bounce back. I think that goes a big way for some of the goal reactions and looking like it's his last goal, because in his mind, it might be.
And honest to God, to me, people who live with that type of mentality, like this could be my last game, this could be my last chance to score. I got to live in that moment and really, they figured it out. Like, I wish I had that mentality with like my day-to-day stuff, because my life would be 10 times more enhanced and beautiful and happy. Right. That's why I'm saying, I think watching Michael Bunting, even from my TV, it's like, it makes me want to be in the moment as much as he is. I can't imagine what it's like to be his teammate. So I just think that he's a special player in that sense. Can we talk about Jack Campbell for a second? Because I don't know what this
Our
guy
weekly Jack Campbell segment.
Right. I know. My God, seriously, 39 saves against the Ducks, 975 save percentage. His numbers are not normal. He's consistently showing everyone that he is a top goaltender in the league. Is it too early to be talking about him in terms of the Vezina, or should he be in that conversation at this point in time?
Absolutely. Like the numbers don't lie. Like, he's got a 946 save percentage
Overall,
through 18 games. Like, it's nuts. And he's on a top team in the NHL. He's getting wins. He's putting up performances like that. There's no reason why he shouldn't be.
Well, I just want to see where he is in terms of goalies. I think he's
like second or third right now.
I think
depends on your games played threshold.
Exactly. It depends on the sample size.
Yeah.
At 10 games, he's top. I believe he's also atop the league in wins with Cam Talbot. I mean, I have no idea how the hell he's doing this.
It's crazy.
It's especially for people who watch Toronto Maple Leafs hockey all the time. It's weird to see a goalie succeeding. It's not normal.
Yeah.
And like, just the type of person he is, you just want to see it continue. You don't want to see it ever end, because I mean, I don't know. I don't understand. It's like,
I mean, how can you not root for him? He's humble.
Yeah.
He's nice. He's funny. He's called Soup. People are chanting Soup in California. They love him so much. Like,
that's crazy.
You know, like, it's just, everything he does is awesome. And with these, it's not like he's awesome and his numbers are average. Like, he's an awesome person.
He's awesome and his numbers are even better.
And his numbers are even better. It's like, you don't get better than this. This is what a time to be alive, to be a Leafs fan. Seriously, though.
I'm trying to not be the pessimist of the group here, but like, I am concerned for when the regression does kick in.
Oh yeah, it'll happen.
Because
Scott's
that might
slowly
get
bringing
ugly.
us down to reality right now. He's like,
No
okay,
regression.
come back
But,
down.
I mean, I never look at it as like, oh my God, this is like, it's more just like, enjoy the ride, but then also expect for it to end.
Yeah.
And then not get mad at him when he suddenly starts letting in more. Because just goalies are voodoo. That's the end of the day. That's kind of how it is. But like, it couldn't happen to a better guy, honestly.
Well, it's a long season, right? Of course, he's going to have an off game where, of course, his numbers are going to go down a little bit. If we're living in Michael Bunting's world of being present and staying in the moment, we got to give Jack Campbell all the credit in the world that we can. And hopefully Team US.
But like, to that point too, he's another guy that went through a lot of trials and tribulations over his career. He was a 11th overall pick. He won gold medals with the United States at the World Juniors, and then spent like 6 years in the AHL and didn't look like he was going to become an NHL goaltender. So that's another guy that you can point to and be like another guy that's kind of thankful and living in the moment in his career right now.
I love it. Team USA, you think they're going to take him even as a third string? We talked about it last week on the pod. They got to be looking a little closer.
The third string is pretty open. So I don't know how you can maybe look away from a guy with a 946.
Even the second string, he beat out John Gibson. I mean,
I won't go that far.
If he has a 946 or higher by the time the Olympic break comes, you wouldn't want to ride a hot goaltender into the Olympics. Okay, maybe not. I'm not.
It would take a lot for me to go away from Gibson or Hellebuck there. But
although United States' roster decisions in the past, it would not shock me if they picked a goalie solely based on one game against the other goalie they were looking at.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Part of the process.
I mean, Connor Hellebuck is a 917, Jack Campbell 946.
Gibson's got a 917 too. So
just put Jack Campbell on first goalie, or if he wants to, transfer his citizenship over to Canada.
Yeah, right. We'll take him.
I'm good with that too. Like he's still got a little bit of time.
Guy, let's talk about the new face of Lululemon, John Tavares, our captain, which every media outlet loves to pull up those pictures of John Tavares and show.
I'm here for it.
It's so
It's
good.
good pictures.
I know.
It
Well,
looks
right.
so awkward.
Honest to God,
Of course it
Like
is.
he
It's John
does not
Tavares.
belong
Of
there.
course it is.
poor guy, because John Tavares is just so quiet and to himself and like private, and then all of a sudden he's like the poster boy for Lululemon and like the Canadian Olympic gear. And it does look a little awkward. I love John Tavares. I'm not talking anything bad, but it does look a little awkward.
It looks like
and
something.
the more the
Matt
media
would do.
pumps it out there, I'm just like, poor guy. But you can't deny right now what he's doing on the ice. He leads the team in points, 2 goals, 4 assists this week. Super important to have a captain that leads on the ice and off the ice. So let's talk about his performances now. And since he's come back from his injury, and we talked a little bit about, do we think we're starting to see vintage John Tavares? And at this point, I really think that he is leaning on and off the ice, which I think is super, super important for the Leafs to have like their veterans, their staple guys, and then obviously like their guys like Michael Bunting coming up and contributing. But I think solid performances and leadership from John Tavares is super important. I think that's what we've been getting from him.
And he's been putting up the points kind of quietly.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't think anyone, if you just ask them who's the leading scorer on the Leafs, I think you'd obviously get your Matthews Marner responses. You might get a couple of Nylanders just off of his play so far this season. But I don't think many people would think that it's John Tavares, and he's quietly been putting together a very solid season. Some of the underlying numbers aren't as kind. There's some defensive issues and stuff like that. But in terms of the on-ice product so far, he's been getting the offensive zone starts, which is somewhat thanks to the new look third line and the way that they've been allowing the Matthews and Tavares lines to get up the ice more and starting those offensive zone opportunities. But he's been able to capitalize on them. He's been a big part of the power play success recently as well. And just overall, like you mentioned, just being a very strong leader and doing things quietly, but doing so successfully.
Yeah, I was starting to get slightly concerned after the end of last season, both just with the injury, with not knowing how he'd respond to it, but also like you look at a lot of the underlying numbers and it seemed like he was relying a little bit more on Nylander to like drive that line. So it was almost reaching the point where maybe that $11 million contract was, aside from all the stuff the media always says about it being overpaid, but like it was starting to look like, oh, we might be reaching the point where it is starting to be overpaid and we're not halfway through it yet. But yeah, no, this resurgence is, I think, a nice breath of fresh air on those concerns so far. It's just like as Kyle pointed out, the underlying numbers aren't quite there defensively, but they have the ability to shelter them now with the third line. Exactly. So yeah, so you can get away with it and he can still produce, put up those points and look like, I mean, not vintage John Tavares, but like he can still play like what we've been used to
we
seeing.
need.
And
Yeah. And just quickly on the offensive zone start thing, Tavares is over 60% offensive zone starts so far this season. Matthews is over 63%. And that's all because of the addition of David Kampf in the third line and the way that they've been able to eat those defensive zone starts. David Kampf is under 14% offensive zone starts. So they've been eating those zone starts, and a lot of the talk, I know we're going to get to them in a little bit with Ondrej Kase, but not only has the third line been great at getting the puck up the ice and getting chances themselves, but they've allowed Matthews and Tavares to be able to not necessarily worry about the defensive side as much, to get those offensive zone starts and capitalize on those opportunities.
Absolutely.
I will say that you two covered it very well, and I don't have anything.
And on to the third line. Okay, yeah, Kyle, let's go right into it. Third line, obviously we saw a little change in the line because Ondrej Kase is day-to-day with an upper body injury. Obviously, when injuries happen, coaches go to the blender. You got to mix it up. You got to deal with a little bit of adversity. The Leafs handled it really well. What do we continue to love about, one, this third line and how it adds depth and allows the Leafs to have another element of success? Two, how we can deal with injuries, and three, how the Leafs just are handling kind of like all sorts of adversity right now. So I think that's one of my favorite things too. When teams do something really special, don't get me wrong, I love it when, for example, the other day when I said when the Oilers can win like 5-0, yes, we all love it. But it's when teams battle back with adversity or if they're dealing with injuries or goaltending issues or whatnot, when they're able to fix it and still win is when I'm like, this is a playoff team. So I think the Leafs have been, handling everything really well. Obviously, no one wants to see Kasha injured or day to day. But you can't really complain. I mean, the Leafs are doing their thing right now.
What I will say is that the first game, David Camp taking a shoulder to the head and somehow Andre Kasha is the one to miss the next 2 games is the most Kasha thing possible out of that third line. Just the guy has such terrible luck in terms of injuries. And it's been impressive that he's been able to play so much as he has already. But what I will say on the third line is that it last year when Wayne Simmons got bumped up to the third line, it didn't look great. Simmons wasn't playing good. There was maybe some decent defensive results, but overall it was kind of a situation where you're like, let's just try to survive with the third line out there and then get the big boys back out there. But the third line with David Kampf has been way, way better. Mm-hmm. But also Wayne Simmons has been way better than he was last year. And I think we've seen it the last couple of games where he's been getting some bounces, getting the puck to go in. All season long, he's been among the best in the NHL in terms of expected goals individually on a per 60 rate. And those are starting to go in for him. So he's been playing well. The bump up to the third line went well over the last couple of games. So it was great to see him succeed in a higher role when he got that opportunity. But the third line's just been so important to this team in terms of eating those defensive zone starts, giving the big guys the offensive opportunities. I was a bit tentative about the Camp signing as a third line defensive center for 1.5 million, all these kind of things, but they've been a big part of this team so far.
I will say that they need to put Nick Ritchie on that. I mean, he already has played on that third line a little bit, but if Kasha comes back on Wednesday and Camp is there, if they put Nick Ritchie on there and they can have success, they can get him his first goal, and that's what he needs.
He needs a goal so badly. Oh my God.
Desperately needs a goal.
If they're doing so well, I mean, that third line is doing everything that the Leafs didn't have last season, and hopefully that will transition into the playoffs. Don't want to really think that far because it scares me, but they're doing great. Kamikaze is what they call Andre Kasha, which is funny.
Very fitting.
Yeah, because he's all over the place. Every game there's a fall or there's a hit and you're like, oh, damn, he's injured. And then he comes out next shift and I'm like, wow. But no, I mean, they got to get Nick Ritchie on that line to score a goal. Like, I love Pierre Engvall. He's doing decent. But if they can get Nick Ritchie on there to get something and get him rolling, that'll be nice too.
I think it's nice that Sheldon's finally got his shutdown line that he's been trying to get for the last couple of years. I think we saw that especially with the trade deadline last year where they were bringing in Riley Nash and Nick Foligno to try and make that work. So the fact that we can have that just adds so much more to our depth, because it basically means that any player isn't out of their element on any line, because Camp and Kosh show that they can handle those tough third line minutes, so that even the winger that they're with can kind of manage. Then other than that, you're either in the top 6 playing with Matthews and Marner or Tavares and Nylander, or you're playing on the fourth line against easy competition. So yeah, I think it just adds so much flexibility to our depth. Now, again, as Nick pointed out, that it almost kind of looked like that was the case last season for most of the year. And then just as it got to the end, it got quieter. And suddenly it was basically just Nylander come playoff time. So hopefully, I think the nice thing is this year that this has come a little bit more from more youthful options as opposed to a lot of veterans who we had relied on for that kind of depth last year. So obviously they got a bit fatigued with the shortened schedule. So hopefully the youthful elements of our newfound depth makes it a little bit longer lasting for the playoffs. But yeah, we can't really think that too far ahead just yet.
Or Leafs fans, hey, we have so much PTSD that we deal with that it's very hard for us to just breathe. Bro was like, well, last season, 2 years ago, 3 years ago,
2013.
Literally 100 years. I'm just kidding. Okay, let's finish this episode off with some love for Jason Spezza. Played his 1200th career game against the Ducks, which tied him for 116th most in NHL history. He's now 36 games away from being the NHL's top 100 for most games played. Huge achievement for any athlete. Let's talk a little bit about Spezza and what he brings to this team. And one thing that we talked about, Michael Bunting having heart, I think Jason Spezza has tons of heart. And I also think he brings a maturity to this team that is very much needed. Not because I think it's an immature team, but when you have young guys or younger guys, you need to have a Jason Spezza to kind of like balance everything out. And I really, really liked the character that I saw from him in the All or Nothing docuseries. I thought that he was a stand-up guy and kind of really controlled the emotions on the roster. So thoughts on him, his performance, and kind of what he brings to the Leafs.
Jason Spezza is the best. Just like he's just so great. He's so great. Like the best, like on this road trip, the best thing was his slap shot power play goal against the Kings. And then Matthews mic'd up because it was a TNT game and he goes to the bench and he's like, that's so nasty. Like, it's just awesome. And on that point though, like he's making league minimum and he's playing a fourth line role for the Leafs, hasn't been played once. He was on waivers at one point to help them with roster flexibility. And all he's done is put up points in a fourth line sheltered role. He's really helped out the second power play unit when they do get on the ice. He's given them an offensive fourth line that can go out and get some secondary scoring here and there. It's just awesome to see him as a veteran, as one of the great players over this generation, come to this Leafs team, do so for the league minimum and do so and succeed in it. It's just been awesome to see. And I hope he continues to take down those milestones. You mentioned the top 100 games played one. He's getting closer and closer to that 1,000-point mark. I don't know if he'll quite hit it this season. He's got a bit to go there. I think it's like 23 points or something like that. But it's not necessarily not doable, especially if he re-signs for another season, which I don't know why he wouldn't the way he's playing. So I like Jason Spezza has got to be like one of, if not the most likable guy on the team. Like,
he's such a team player. He's a team
player. How
player.
do you not love him?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If there's two things I want to say about Jason Spezza, one is that he's essentially like another coach. Like he knows everything.
Yes.
And two, I mean, like Kyle said about the waiver thing, the fact that he said he would retire, he was claimed off waivers, is like the best thing ever. Like he wants to be here so bad. He knows how hard it is to win a Stanley Cup, and it doesn't, like, I feel like once he retires, he's still going to be in the organization just to still be there if there's no cup. But like, man, I don't know how he's still doing it, but he's doing it successfully. And it blows my mind to see a guy at that age still being able to produce at the NHL, enjoying it all, doing all the stuff with his sticks that he does. I mean, everything is crazy, but I love the guy so much.
I'm actually going to correct myself on something I said slightly earlier in the podcast. William Nylander was not the only one that showed up in the playoffs, because Spezza was also someone who really stood out in that playoff run as well. And like, he always seems to be there. And like when the Leafs have no hope, like I think we remember when he got into that fight in Game 4 against Columbus when they were seeing like they're up before the comeback. So yeah, like he just has a lot of like that like heart of the team. I'll also, like, since he signed here, we've seen a lot more players come in to like from the Toronto area to come play for the Leafs as well now, because they're seeing the success that Spezza's had. Like we saw Thornton last year. Simmons has been here for the last couple of years. Bunting, Ritchie. Like I think that could be like, that's also super helpful, especially in the cap crunch. Getting those kind of players in and them wanting to play for cheap just to play for the Leafs is super helpful. And I think an overlooked aspect of Spezza coming to the team as well. But yeah, no, he's made the most of the minutes that he's been given. And I don't think, especially after like so many years of the Matthews era where we had so much trouble finding a fourth line center, it's been nice to have that stability for the last few years as well.
So overall, we all love Spezza.
Yes.
How do you not? Like,
and if you don't like Spezza, you're not friends with us.
Like,
sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
There's like even non-Leafs fans have to love him. Like
exactly.
There's not like, I think there's one player on the Leafs that even Sens fans can like, and it's Jason Spezza for obvious reasons. Like, you can't not like him.
the only people that can hate Spezza are Leafs fans who have this like deep-rooted rivalry with the Sens and just can't get over a Sens player playing on the Leafs. I think that's really about it. Not that the Sens matter, so like why would that even be a rivalry?
If you don't like Jason Spezza, you don't like having fun.
And you're not friends with us.
That too.
Exactly.
Okay, the Leafs this week play the Avs, the Wild, and the Jets. What do we need to do quickly this week as we wrap up episode 12 of the Leafsnation radio podcast?
Well, a little bit of news dropping as the show's been going on, but it looks like Nathan McKinnon will come back to the Avalanche lineup against the Leafs.
Of course.
Because,
why wouldn't he?
But I kind of love that. McKinnon, Matthews, you want to see that. We don't get to see Colorado versus the Leafs very much over the year, of course. Western versus Eastern Conference. It's been a while since we saw those two play. So hopefully it'll be a nice, fun game there against a top team there with their star player coming back in the lineup.
Yay.
I mean, you know, we always talk about McKinnon versus Matthews, but like the fact that they could just put Nazem Kadri in there so seamlessly and he plays just as well.
Oh my God.
That, I feel like that probably means McKinnon isn't that good. No, I'm kidding.
Talk about a hot take.
Kidding aside, he's on my fantasy team, so I'm happy.
Nice.
Hopefully he takes a game to warm up, but I won't hate it if he does because my fantasy team. But yeah, no, of course he's coming back. Also, sorry, thing, but like, can we point out how weird it's going to be seeing the Wild play us on a Saturday night? That just feels like a weird hockey night in Canada game.
That is a weird hockey night.
There's one against Nashville in Nashville later this year on Saturday. That is going to be like
what are
really
we doing?
weird one.
What are we doing?
I have a question. Has Nazem Kadri returned to Toronto since he signed in Colorado?
I think surely, right?
Yeah. No, they played
surely
a game in Toronto in the first season.
Because
I only remember it because that was like a back-to-back. The first one was against Philly, where like it was that weird one where they were like it was 3-1. They allowed an empty net goal and then just two random ones after, and it looked like a rout. And then Freddie decided to play both games of the back-to-back, and it was against Colorado. And that was like the weird one where the game-deciding goal was Spezza trying to dangle in Riley's feet and turning it over to Nichushkin for the breakaway.
I love the game recall there.
Your guys' memory kills me. I can't remember what I did last week. Honest to God, the people who can like my fiance is like this. He can riff off what happened like 17 years ago in a sports game, and I'm like, honestly, I don't remember last week.
Oh, you know those like that segment in the Steve Dangle podcast where they like have Steve try and remember like what game it was. I usually beat Steve when I'm listening to him.
Yeah, I'm not as good on like the individual game stuff, but like year-end trivia and stuff, I'm pretty decent.
Good for you guys.
Yeah, Kadri has 2 assists in 2 games against the Leafs, so clearly he's going to get a hat trick.
I can remember like when something in my life happened, if there was a Leafs game that night, because I'll remember the Leafs game that night. And
okay,
then,
I do have that. Yeah.
Man, I have such a bad memory too. I'm trying to think of what I even had for dinner last night. I don't remember.
I am.
Well, that stuff's pointless. It's not good hockey
that's
trivia.
Pointless.
You need good hockey trivia.
No.
Yeah, come on.
I don't have enough brain space for.
Got to do good on the TLN trivias here.
But you know what? Like, I don't know. Like, even when I played, someone's like, "When did you do this and this?" And I'm like, I don't know. I can't remember years. I can't remember teams. I remember like moments, but everything else is a blur. And then I'm like, maybe something's wrong with my brain. I don't know.
But I can't remember literally anything else. So it's just like useless hockey knowledge.
Yeah.
Well, you're in the right industry.
It's really bad. Like when the game's over and I think, oh, William Nylander scored. And then I'm like, how did he score the goal? Like, that's how bad it is. It's probably something wrong in my head.
So homework for this week, guys, is to try the Tim Biebs and come up and we'll share one song that we liked. Next week on the pod, we'll listen to one song. It could be throwback or new, but one song that we liked, and we're going to share our music with each other.
We should just do that every week.
Yeah, no, seriously, it's going to be...
You have to buy that hat.
Okay.
I will sell it to you for $100.
Hot items from Nick Barton.
I'll be listening to a lot because I'm in the phase where I'm prepping up my year-end music lists.
Oh my god!
Nice.
So this
Spotify.
is perfect.
Spotify Rough. Yeah.
I'm gonna write down the songs that we pick, and then by the end, we'll come up with a TLN Radio pod playlist based on that we'll share with our community by the end of the regular season to get everyone ready for playoffs.
You know how bad it's going to be because you guys all are just talking about whatever the bands that you were liking, and I was just sitting here thinking I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Nick, what's one artist or band that you're listening to right now?
I'm listening to Christmas music.
I love that. Okay, share a Michael Bublé song.
No, I mean, like, there's a lot of people I like. I mean, Daniel Caesar's a big one, but
love Daniel Caesar.
I don't really listen to him that much right now. I mean, Shawn Mendes, because he's from Pickering and I went to high school with him.
He's in Toronto
That's a
these
big
days.
one.
You keep an eye out. I saw him on. People are so creepy on TikTok. I saw someone following him around the streets in Toronto. Because him and Camila Cabello broke up. Fun fact, everyone.
Yes, I did hear about that.
He's been walking around the streets of Toronto. So keep an eye out for him, Nick. You might run in when you meet him. Tell him you're Freddie Anderson.
No, if I meet him, he's gonna know who I am, and then I'm gonna be like, The weird thing is when I think about it, because I have so many friends who like are friends with him, and like they have Instagram stories, like they'll go to New York and stuff. Like, I just think if I ever run into him, what the hell am I going to say? Am I going to say, hey, how's it going? Oh yeah, actually, I know how it's going.
Oh, you be normal. You talk to him like you talk to anyone else. You say, what's up, man? You want my Tim Biebs hat?
Oh my God.
No, have you tried the Tim Biebs? My favorite flavor is the birthday waffle.
See, like I've walked by like people who have notoriety in Toronto, and I just walk by them. I don't even say anything. That's probably what I do, unless he noticed who I am.
It's so funny. So when I was working for Toronto FC, that was like obviously when Sebastian Javinko was there, and he was like the coolest.
Might be coming back.
Oh my God. I'm all, people are like, why would we do that? I'm like, why
not?
He's just like, let's just bring him for the excitement, please. I also love that Michael Bradley's dad's the coach. I'm sorry. Yeah. This is a completely different podcast. Anyways,
we're off the rest.
So they did a private training session, Toronto FC, and I was kind of like hosting something for fans. And I brought my parents in kind of like as VIP members. My dad's the biggest soccer fan. My mom's the nicest person in the world. So like I'm anywhere I can go and get my parents in, I try to. I bring my dad into the Toronto FC like training center, and all the players are eating lunch or dinner or whatever it was. So it's like an unknown rule that you just like don't go and bother them. My dad is such a G, like such a European old school cool person with like the most confidence in the world. Goes up to Sebastian Javinko. Okay, I'm like, right, and my dad literally puts out his hand for like a pound, and Sebastian Javinko looks up at him, starts laughing, and he pounds him, and my dad walks away, and I'm like,
I love that.
I'm like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm like, Dad, and he's like, it's Sebastian Javinko. I'm like, whoa. Like, honest to God, I'm like, this guy is so cool. And that's what I'm like, I wish I had that kind of confidence if I ever met like a celeb on the streets. My dad gives zero shits. He's just like, Sebastian Javinko, I'm going to go give him props. I think they blew it up and they went separate directions. I'm like, that there was nothing said, but it said everything. Like, it was so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Toronto FC needs to have like one of those games. Like, isn't there MLS teams who face like teams from the Premier League?
The All-Star team does.
Yes.
The All-Star team. Well, I mean, they need to have, one of the things that I thought would be cool for like fans in Toronto is like if they were able to bring like a Premier League team over and face them in Toronto. That'd be really interesting.
Didn't like Real Madrid come?
Yeah, I was going to say in 2009, there was the International Cup that they do to begin the season. And so TFC played Real Madrid. It went about as you would expect it when it was 5-1 Real. I just looked it up here again. But yeah, like they do some stuff like way back, like I think it was like 2013 or 2014 at like the Big House of Michigan. I saw Manchester United and Real Madrid play there. And so like they do some stuff over here, but
that's what they do.
Yeah, they don't do as much like MLS team versus
because
whomever, but
they would probably wreck them into oblivion.
Which is why they do the All-Star team instead. So
yeah, I don't hate on MLS. Everyone's like, it's a retirement league, blah blah. I'm like, give North America something, guys. Like, and it's honestly when TFC got good finally by like year 12 after a painful long 12 years. It was fun to watch, like really fun to watch. I think Bob Bradley is going to do, I think, a good job with this team. And I think eventually Michael Bradley's going to go into, I think one day Michael Bradley will be the coach, but and this is again a whole completely different topic. We'll wrap up this episode.
We got to go off the rails at some point.
We literally do. Okay. This has been episode 12 of the Leafs Nation Radio podcast. Send in your questions, comments, concerns. Thanks, guys. We'll be back on Monday with our ratings on Tim Biebs and our favorite songs. Catch you later.
Thanks for listening to TLN Radio, a member of the Nation Network of Podcasts and delivered by DoorDash. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and never miss an episode.